It's an absolutely wild day in the world of Magic the Gathering as Hasbro finds itself trying to fend off a hostile takeover of Wizards of the Coast and MTG.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings! Owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends, I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered to discuss a very interesting situation. There is a major power play going on at Hasbro right now. Basically what happened is a hedge fund named Alta recently acquired some Hasbro shares. They teamed up with Johnny Magic, John Finkel, one of the most famous Magic Pro players, and essentially came to Hasbro saying, what we want to do is we want to separate Wizards of the Coast off to the side and have it be its own entity because we believe that will lead to everybody making more money. Now, Hasbro basically turned around and said, no, this doesn't sound right. This is ridiculous. And Alta said, no, we still want to do this. We're going to go to the shareholders. And so now there's this giant battle taking place for the leadership of Hasbro and ultimately for the fate of Wizards of the Coast. You have to understand that right now, the way it is, Hasbro's main asset, as far as I understand, is literally Wizards of the Coast. They are pulling in crazy amounts of money and doing much, much better than Wizards of the Coast's other divisions and Hasbro's other divisions overall, right? Magic is essentially, I feel like, the crown jewel in what Hasbro is making right now. And when we get into their press announcement, you will see specifically, or I should say shareholder announcement. It's both. It's a press announcement and a shareholder announcement. But when we get into it, you're going to hear some interesting stats about the amount of money that they made in 2021 and how Magic is doing overall. But either way, it's this massive power play. I'm going to go through the entire announcement with you and break it down. So let's do that now.
All right, I have shrunk down to my miniature size to guide you through this. Now, bear in mind, this is very, very dry, so you're going to want to go and grab a whole bottle of sauce and chug it down. It starts out, dear fellow shareholder, as a Hasbro investor, you face a critical decision at the company's annual meeting of shareholders to be held on June 8th, 2022. Your vote is more important than ever this year. A hedge fund named AltaFox Opportunities Fund LP, which we'll just call AltaFox going forwards, which only recently acquired shares in Hasbro, is attempting to install 5 dissident director nominees who lack any relevant industry expertise to push an agenda to spin off the Wizards of the Coast business, henceforth known as Wizards for the rest of this. We believe this proxy fight is ill-timed. AltaFox's agenda will not create value for shareholders and its nominees and offers no beneficial experience to Hasbro's board or the company. So straight out of the gates, they're coming in with some strong wording, right? They're naming these individuals who are trying to get on the board as dissidents. They are stating that they just recently appeared. They haven't had the shares for very long. On top of that, they're pointing out that they don't have the necessary skills, underlying expertise to do the job as well. This is pretty strong language. Now, Chris C., who became CEO only 8 weeks ago, doubled the size of Wizards' business over a 3-year period from 2018 to 2021. 2 years faster than our initial target. If you weren't already aware of this, Wizards of the Coast set out with a 5-year target to basically double up Wizards, right? And instead of doing it in 5 years, they did it in 3 years. Chris C. was originally in charge of Wizards of the Coast. When the CEO of Hasbro passed away, that's when Chris C. became the CEO of Hasbro overall. So he's only been doing this for about 2 months, right? Now, it says that Chris's track record and gameplay that led to the success at Wizards ideally position him to lead and execute the optimal strategy for creating long-term shareholder value by growing Hasbro's world-class portfolio of assets across multiple play and entertainment categories. So here's where they turn around and say, look, these new guys have no experience, they're not going to bring any value. Here's somebody who's already exceeded our value expectations and literally grown Hasbro as well. So he is an ideal candidate to keep in this position. So it says, we firmly believe it is in your best interest as a shareholder to give him an opportunity to execute his game plan and drive the performance of Hasbro as a whole. Hasbro's diverse and experienced board, recently enhanced with the addition of Liz Hamren and Blake Jorgensen, is best positioned to support Chris, the management team, and employees of Hasbro to drive value creation for the benefit of all of our shareholders. Now, it's interesting to see releases that are aimed towards shareholders, because normally when we see releases from things like Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro, they're aimed towards the customer and have a different style of language. But this is essentially like a letter to the bosses of the company, because the shareholders get to make the decisions of who's in charge. And it's very, very evident from this that Hasbro wants to do everything they can to block Alta Fox from being able to get through. And you'll notice they've bolded particular sentences that they really want to stand out for people who aren't really willing to dive into the whole thing. So it continues. Alta Fox's campaign, which began just days after the passing of our longtime CEO Brian Goldner, is a distraction at a time when our new CEO should be given a chance to focus solely on our business for the benefit of all stakeholders. Hasbro welcomes shareholder engagement, and upon request from Alta Fox, we met with them on numerous occasions as described in our proxy statement. Through this engagement, it became obvious to us that Alta Fox lacks an understanding of Hasbro's business, including, most significantly, Wizards. Alta Fox proposed a spin-off of Wizards that would not create value and illustrated clear misunderstandings of our significant investment, over $1 billion in the last 5 years, support from the board in growing the Wizards business, 150% growth in Magic the Gathering alone in the last 5 years. And this benefits Wizards receives from being part of Hasbro and the ability of our brand blueprint strategy to drive the future performance of Wizards and the entirety of Hasbro's business. So here they're going ahead and driving home the fact that Magic the Gathering and Wizards of the Coast are a very valuable asset specifically to Hasbro, and more importantly than that, that Alta Fox doesn't understand how Hasbro functions, and more significantly than that, how Wizards of the Coast functions as a part of Hasbro, right? So it continues, Hasbro's board of directors operates with the best interest of all shareholders in mind, as evidenced by the thorough succession planning process that identified Chris C. as Hasbro's new CEO. I mean, I do have to admit, just from the outside of it, Chris C. has proven that he's got what it takes to drive a company like that. And at the same time, Alta Fox is coming out with Johnny Magic as, well, they're basically bringing a Magic personality and going, look, we have somebody related to Magic the Gathering. He knows Magic the Gathering better than the people who make it. So he's going to be the one to help lead us into this new age. But I'm sorry, taking a random Magic player and going, yo, now you're part of this big corporate strategy and you can fix Magic, right? Even though you're part of an organization that's literally there to try and extract maximum profits. Like, I never thought that I would end up being on Hasbro's side for something, but I have to admit, after looking everything over, I don't really see what Alta Fox is bringing to the table, ultimately. It feels like a lot of smoke and hot air. But anyways, let us continue onwards with what it's saying here. So, robust succession planning is an ongoing point of focus for the board. The board regularly considers internal and external candidates as part of its extensive and thoughtful executive succession planning process with the goal of identifying and placing the best long-term leaders for Hasbro. This process allowed us to act definitively and quickly appoint Chris C., the change agent who doubled the Wizards business over a 3-year period. I mean, I didn't see everything that happened inside of Hasbro, but from my perspective, he does seem like the best choice in terms of the people you have on hand. I don't know about outsiders, but Wizards of the Coast is going to be one of the biggest profit drivers for Hasbro for the foreseeable future. Chris C. headed over that for like 3 years, right? So he's got a lot more knowledge about how all of that works than people who would be coming in from the outside. And they're throwing everything they can in here. Even the whole just days after we lost our previous CEO. They really want to toss everything they can out there to spike the wheels for Alta Fox, right? So it says, Chris's specific combination of expertise in both the Wizards business and the next generation of gaming makes him ideally positioned to develop in conjunction with the board the strategy for the future of Hasbro. The board fully supports Chris and believes that given the opportunity to execute with such support, his forward-looking, consumer-focused strategy and game plan will create and drive long-term shareholder value in the best interest of all shareholders. Sorry, my brain's a little wandering. The dryness is even getting to me, guys. So, it says, there's no doubt that Chris will apply the growth orientation and capital discipline that he successfully demonstrated during his time at Wizards to the rest of the Hasbro business, along with his focus on games, multi-generational play, and entertainment and direct-to-consumer stuff. All right, so Chris in the early days of refining the fundamental game plan he used at Wizards to pursue long-term growth opportunities across the full company, and we believe the actions and agenda of AltaFox will only impair that progress to the detriment of all shareholders. Hasbro has invested over $1 billion in Wizards in the last 5 years alone, and a spin-off would not create value for shareholders. I love how they're aware that what they're saying is so dry and in some ways repetitive that they need to slap these, hey, this is what we're saying. It says, AltaFox's claim that Wizards has suffered as a part of Hasbro and is starved of resources could not be further from the truth. I mean, Hasbro is leaning pretty hard on Wizards. I don't know how much money they're taking out of it, but they have been cranking out a ton of new products too. So saying that they've just starved them of resources, I don't know about that. Anyways, it says, as a result of this investment, Wizards has achieved phenomenally profitable growth through player expansion, new games, and new IP. The next part is interesting. This is evident in our full 2021 results, which show Wizards' revenue increased 42%. Revenue went up by 42% to $1.28 billion. Wizards of the Coast brought in over $1 billion in 2021. A 40% increase. Now, to me, this is a smart move cramming this in here because it's saying, yo, do you really want to take this golden goose and put it in the hands of people who don't know what they're doing? So it says the board's been a key support for Chris in the performance he and the Wizards teams have delivered over the last 6 years, and the board has consistently pushed to be more aggressive in Wizards' growth plans. The brand blueprint maximizes the value of Wizards by expanding the reach and opportunity of its iconic IP into new channels. And basically, they plan on reaching new players across a holistic suite of brand executions, storytelling, and personal connections. For Magic the Gathering, they've got the Netflix series. They've got a theatrical release of the blockbusters Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves feature film. So they've got that going on as well. And basically, they're saying that this is just the start of what they can achieve when they take the Wizards brands across the blueprint flywheel. Sorry if I'm not reading it exactly word for word. I'm trying to save you guys a little bit of time and give you a bit of the gist of it too, right? Because it does start to get a little repetitive. So, our board has independently and carefully considered the appropriateness of a spin-off of Wizards and found that a spin-off of Wizards would not create value for all shareholders. In our view, it would limit growth and result in meaningful missed strategic and financial opportunities. In reviewing AltaFox's proposal for a Wizard spinoff, the board noticed that AltaFox's analysis assumed a significant multiple expansion for Wizards through reference to fundamentally flawed and inappropriate benchmarks that should not be used as a basis for strategic decision-making. So basically, they're going off of the idea that they can expand the company out way more, add a bunch of product lines and all these sort of things on. But, I mean, if we look at what Wizards is doing, they're already pretty much kind of feeling like they're pushing it to the max with the secret layers and everything else. How many more product lines can you put out there? The only real way to crank growth would just be to continually ratchet up prices, at least from the perspective of an outsider like me, right? And it says, moreover, AltaFox's analysis fails to account for significant, quantifiable dyssynergies that would result from a separation, including the shift from an owned to a third-party content creation model. So that seems like they wouldn't own the content creation anymore. It would be outsourced, which is weird. Duplicative overhead costs and the material costs of executing a spinoff. Yeah, actually setting up Wizards of the Coast as its own separate full-on corporation that was a separate entity from Hasbro would have additional cost, right? So it says Hasbro maintains a firm and ongoing commitment to board refreshment. Each time I read this, because I read this before, each time I read this, I just think they're like committed to getting themselves drinks. Like, bro, we commit ourselves to staying hydrated. All right. So basically, the next part of this article really just starts to break down that they have, like, people have been a part of their board of directors for a long time, right? So you see right here, they've got the highly qualified and experienced board of directors, consists of 13 directors, 12 of whom are independent, and more than half of who are women or ethnically diverse. That's such a weird way to put it. More than half of them fall into this. That's that's a grouping? Okay, whatever. Anyways, it's just obviously some strange corporate speak. It's funny to me. Anyways, it continues on to address one specific misconception from AltaFox. We want to clarify that effective as of his retirement from the board in May 2021, and as a result of his vast experience in our board and industry, Alan Hassenfield was designated as chairperson emeritus. This is not a member of the board of directors. He doesn't vote on board matters or sit on board committees. So there's all this information flowing out there. Hasbro is essentially trying to stamp down on everything that is not accurate in their perspective. And what they do next here is they talk about their individuals. They talk about what they bring to the table, their skills. I'm going to save you the hassle of that, right? You don't need me to hear you. You don't need to hear me trumpeting corporate people, blah, blah, blah. So you got that. And then down here, you have the opposite, where they trumpet their guys. We're awesome. We got it. And then down here is where they go, AltaFox's nominees have limited qualifications related to Hasbro's long-term success. I love how they just, all you do is just bold this part. Just read this part. You don't even need to know what it's related to. That's great in terms of like, here you go. If you quickly glance over this, they're doing it from a perspective that's beneficial to them. So anyways, it says they have limited qualifications related to Hasbro's long-term success, since AltaFox's stated goal is to push a spin-off of Wizards that would not create value. Shareholders should be concerned that if any of AltaFox's nominees were added to the board, they would only serve to disrupt and distract the company from executing its strategic plans for the future of Hasbro. And I mean, that doesn't feel wrong, right? If you have somebody who is literally joining up and going, my goal is to spin and splinter this company off, then yeah, that is going to cause some confusion and arguing at board meetings, right? It says, not one of the dissident nominees brings relevant experience to support Chris in his new position as CEO, and their nominations show that AltaFox's interests are not aligned with Chris's vision for the company. And they go on to talk about how this first dude here owns like 77% of this one company, and how that company's stock price has dropped by basically 80%. And the dude in charge has said he doesn't pay attention to stock prices, and people shouldn't care if stock prices move up and down. So this is an attempt to go, look, do you want somebody who doesn't even care about the stock prices as a part of things? He's literally in charge of a company that's had 80% reduction in their stock value. Do you want that to happen to you? Do you know what I mean? That's the kind of maneuvering they're doing. Then they have John Finkel, where it says John Finkel has absolutely no experience in leadership roles at corporate companies. He is first and foremost a gamer and a fan, and does not have experience in driving growth and strategic value at digital gaming companies, smartly allocating capital, or delivering returns for shareholders. We welcome his passion for our products, but passion for a couple of product lines does not qualify him to sit on our board. And they're 100% right here. There are people who be like, but he's a Magic player. He's one of us. And it's like, yeah, okay, let's say we all eat bread and you buy loaves of bread. I eat bread like every day. Oh, should you be in charge of a company that sells bread flour and makes bread? No? Why? Oh, because you have absolutely no experience with the running of the company and all that? But you eat bread, bro. I eat bread. You eat bread. You should be in charge. Like, that is the level that it feels like to me. The AltaFox thing feels like a surface level. Hey, maybe we can just get everybody over to our side, do a quick cash grab and dash. And I do genuinely feel that of the two sharks that are circling around Magic right now, Hasbro is the one that will at least not lead to Magic being completely devoured and disappearing, right? That's just my opinion based off of this, but legitimately, it really does feel to me like this AltaFox thing is just, it's totally like a hustle to grab some cash, bro. So the rest of this stuff is just not really discrediting people, but downplaying. It's like, sure, these people have like a bunch of experience, but in particular companies that aren't actually connected to what we do as a business, right? It is an absolutely wild situation here. It says AltaFox is pushing for a formation of a capital allocation committee whose role would de facto duplicate that of our existing finance committee. I don't even know what that means, but it says AltaFox wants you to believe the board is not focused on capital allocation, which shows another lack of understanding of our business. So that's just, I guess, arguing about where the capital is actually put. Allocation is just where you're putting your money, right? So it says reject the AltaFox nominees, vote for. I love how they have to put it in capitals. Even though they're dealing with shareholders, they're like, we got to treat you like you're kind of a dum-dum. See this right here? Vote the white proxy card. Because what happens is the people who at AltaFox, they sent out, right here it says, shareholders should not sign, return, or vote any gold proxy card sent to you by AltaFox. Only the latest date proxy card will count at Hasbro's 2022 annual meeting. They urge the shareholders to discard all gold proxy cards and materials sent to you by AltaFox. Throw out everything they sent you. Just put it in the trash. I think it's funny that they're just like, don't send this in. They won't count. And it's like, your vote doesn't count if you send it out on this gold sheet. That's right. All this maneuvering is kind of fascinating. But to sum it all up, I genuinely do believe that Hasbro is a greedy corporation that wants to extract a bunch of money from Magic the Gathering, but they want Magic the Gathering to stick around for the long haul so they can continue to greedily grab money from it. Where AltaFox's approach to me feels like pump, 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 extract, 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 and death of the game. Like, that's what it feels like to me. Ultimately, I'm just a miniature internet magic historian. Those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. Big shout out to all my patrons. Thank you very much for supporting my channel. And guys, YouTube just enabled super thanks on my channel. So in the spirit of greedy corporatism, give me some super thanks money. Thank me and send a message to Hasbro that I am the one who should be in charge, and do it with your super thanks. Anyhow, thanks for coming by, my friends. I will see you all next time.